Hi, Gloria.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
Good. Stay warm, huh?
Yeah, I've been doing
Terrible
research
place.
about China too.
Uh-huh.
The Yunnan province. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it's a tropical area. It's getting into,
YUNNAN.
yeah,
Yunnan.
it's the part that more of the ethnic group are in there.
Well, the Dai people there, DAI.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You know anything about that?
Taizu. Taizu. I don't know too much about them. I have not really looked into ethnic group that much.
Yeah,
Haven't had a need.
yeah. Coming
Um,
from that area is Cheng Ho.
yeah, if there are
I didn't know.
they have a lot of different and very specialty local customs
Yeah,
there.
well, I was studying that province.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and there are 55 minority groups. So the things
Yeah,
I like the most about them is their costumes, the way they
yeah,
dress.
yeah. And they have a particular version of Buddhism, I believe, or
Oh yes, they do. Yes, they do. Uh-huh. Yes, they do.
We'll give a few more minutes, Jen, and then we'll start.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
yeah. When I was a kid in our class taught us to sing "See This, See This Branch of Dewy Flowers." Have you ever heard of that song?
Uh, I don't recognize the name, but if I hear the tune, I'll
This
probably do.
branch of dewy flowers brought to me in the
Oh,
morning hours.
that's
Dear,
the fragrance. That's a fragrance of jasmine.
is that what that is?
Uh-huh.
It was so beautiful. We never
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah.
Our teacher was so smart. She had people talk about what was going on in their home. So the little Jewish kid came and taught us about a song that was going to be the national anthem for the Jewish people. And we learned
Uh-huh.
that too. So it was a good teacher. She really
Yeah.
taught us all about ourselves, you know.
Right.
I didn't know much, so I could only say my people came from the South and we ate sweet potato pie. And that's all I knew.
I love sweet potato pie.
It's so good. There's
I
nothing better.
know.
I like sweet potato. I'm not sure about the pie yet.
Yeah, well, we have candy yams are very much a part of our culture. So, because my grandmother comes from the South and
Right.
she brought Southern recipes with her, pound cake that you could die for. So good.
I'm going to give one more minute or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are we going to learn how to cook today?
Hold on 1 second here.
Are you from China or a particular province?
This is the music. Music. That's the song. The jasmine.
Is that what it is? The Jasmine?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still alive. We're still in touch with each other on the telephone. Yeah,
Right.
that's the song.
Yeah. This is actually performed back in the, let's see, this was performed back in 2005
Wow.
by she is now the current First Lady of China. She's a
Really?
singer.
My
Yeah.
goodness. Well, my friend, I think her folks were from Hong Kong area.
Uh-huh.
And we used to have a lot of people who had Kowloon, Kowloon,
Uh-huh.
in neon lights in their businesses.
Right.
I don't know what that means, but I did research on it. I think it means a lot of them came from that area, like in Hong Kong.
Well, it's a Kowloon is a part of Hong Kong, and the reason for the lights before it was for, I mean, first they started it's for holidays, and then now you see that if in China you see those lights year round, uh, it's basically attract attention. So
Yeah,
people see, okay, this storefront it probably is very popular. Look how many people there. It's nice and bright, so it's just an attraction.
yeah. It was in the window of some of the Chinese businesses.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Lights.
It's,
All the
it's
time.
everywhere. Mhm.
All the time.
All righty. I think we're ready to go. So thank you, everybody, for coming today for our second cooking class. Miss Jin is here with us, and she has a love and passion for Chinese cooking. So she's going to be teaching you about how to cook braised pork with noodles. Jin, take it away.
Okay.
Before we go, I forgot, if everybody would like to email or chat with me if you have questions, or if you want to raise your hand or interact with Jin while she's cooking, feel free to unmute yourself, which is fine, or chat the question to me and I can ask her. But
Right.
meantime, if everybody can mute your microphone right now, then the focus will be on Jin in the cooking part. Okay, Jin, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. 早上好，大家早上好。That 早上好 is a good morning in Mandarin. So some of you probably have some Mandarin lessons. So, but 早上好 is in Mandarin for good morning. So what we're doing today is the braised pork. It can be done, I call this the use of pork ribs. It can be, you can use any type of the ribs, it's really your preference. If you like more meaty, you can use this like Louisiana short rib. It has a much more meat. And then you can use a baby back. And then if as long to cut them into the smaller pieces, like about inch in length. And then it can be, so you can use that, or you can use regular spare ribs. And then it's kind of in between. What I'm using today is actually the Louisiana short rib. Louisiana ribs, that doesn't have much bone at all, so it's more meat. In this case, it's a totally personal preference. So selection of the material is up to you, okay? But preparation is very similar. The one with more bones, it probably overall cooking time, it may be reduced by 10–20% because there's less meat to required to be braised and to be stewed. So for this, what we call it in Mandarin, braised meat pork, we call 红烧, but it's ribs. So we call it 红烧排骨. 红烧排骨, okay? And it is any part of the region in China, you're able to see a version of a braised rib, a version of it. So it's not just from south or not just from the north. I mean, every region have their way of making 红烧排骨in this case. The way I'm learned to make this is more from area of Shanghai. So it's more in the South China. And in South China, one of the especially for Shanghai, one of the very distinct difference of a food from Shanghai, Suzhou, Yangzhou in this area, the south of the Yangtze River area, is we tend to use adding sugar to our cooking. We add sugar to our cooking. For braised ribs, like 红烧排骨, and another one is that we call it 糖醋排骨. It's the same preparation, you're just adding a couple more ingredients to it. Okay, so in this case, I instead of use regular sugar, I use rock sugar. Rock sugar, the flavor wise, when it's finished, it tastes much cleaner. It's if you use regular sugar, if you like them a little more sweet, then the aftertaste of the regular sugar, it's a little more like you will get a little bit of aftertaste. Seems like you're eating a dessert. But rock sugar does not give you this aftertaste. It's just much cleaner. And there are two different kinds of rock sugar. This is already into the crystal pieces. This is clear. There's also a version of this in the light amber color. There's another version of a rock sugar. It comes in, it literally, like a piece of rock. It's literally like a piece of rock. And then that, you actually have to hammer it into smaller pieces after you get home. So I use both, but lately for convenience, I don't have to pound them. So I've been using all these little pieces. And you can also use this for if you're making a flower tea, the chrysanthemum tea, and we tend to add rock sugar in it. So I use this for both cooking and then also for making flower tea. So the other ingredients we are using, so other than the pork, as I said, what my selection today is, I have 2 pieces of Louisiana rib, style rib. It's mainly all meat in here. It has no bones. Okay. This is probably somewhere around a pound here. It may be just a little bit more than a pound. And then I have a few pieces of star anise. It's the Chinese herb. Okay, it's for flavoring. You don't need too much of it. Just 2 or 3 little pieces of this. It tastes, the flavor has a little bit of a 5-spice flavor, but it's different than 5-spice, but it's flavor-wise very, very similar. Okay, and then I have ginger. We will use a few slices of this. I'm not going to use the whole thing. And then I also have a couple scallions. You just need to make sure you wash them and then get them ready. We will be chopping the bottom part of this at the end, and then to add to the pork.
And
Okay.
I wanted to let everybody know that this time we put the recipe on our website at www.tucsonchinese.org. So if you want to print it out or afterwards, you'll be able to get the recipe on our website. It's already on the website right now. Thank you.
So to do preparation for the pork, as I said, this is just a braised, a hong shao. That's for braised, hong shao. If you like them a little sweet, a little sour, then that become a tang chu hai gu. If it's a tang chu, the only other thing we will add, it's basically everything the same, the steps, the ingredients, we will have to add the Chinese vinegar, the dark vinegar. So that will be the sour part of it, okay? So it's a very easy modification if you say, okay, I want to do sweet and sour this time. That's okay, just same process, add some vinegar to it. How much vinegar? It really, how much you're able to tolerate the tartness from the vinegar or acid. And for the quantity wise, as I said, I have 2 pieces here. It's probably a little over a pound. It depends on how many people you cook for. If you're making a dinner for 6 people, then you probably need about 2 pounds of pork. And then the cooking time is it will be extended a little bit because one of the steps, if you've seen the recipe, is we have to add water. Make sure the water keep the pork submerged. So you have to make sure the water is right above the pork. So if you're cooking for a smaller amount, you obviously need less water. But if it's more pork you're doing, you're cooking for 6 people, 8 people, even 10 people. So that means you just have a more meat material required. And then you need to add more water. And more water, which means that to braise that completely, it will take a longer time. Okay, so the way to see it, I will show you when it's ready. It's when all the liquid are reduced basically to only cover the bottom of the pan. But don't let it dry out, because when it's dried out, it means it also suck out the water from the meat. Then it won't be so tender and moist anymore. Okay, now, so to prepare the meat, we don't want to cut this too big. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this. with a little bit of a so-called the fat in here, which is okay because it gives it will actually helps tenderize the meat as well. Okay, so a little bit of fat is okay, but if it's too much, I would trim them off. Okay, so for this piece, this is about a 1.5 inch thick, and then it's about 1 inch wide. So I'm not going to change too much of a size there. I'm just going to cut this into about half inch thickness. Just about 1/2 inch thickness. So they're each still, it's a nice piece, nice size. It will shrink a little bit after it's been cooked, but they're not too big. They're not too big. If the way you purchase the pork, if it's a much thicker or much larger in piece, and then you just basically reduce the size. Okay, so this they all, if you can see, they're very similar in size. When you cut the pork or any other kind of a meat, if you keep them a similar size, it will ensure that during the cooking process, they can all be cooked evenly. If they are one piece is too big or one piece is too small, the small piece is ready, but the bigger piece are not. It requires more cooking time, and then the smaller size piece become overcooked. Okay, so I'll put this in my plate here, and then I will cut my second piece of meat. This one is about the similar size, so I will cut this the same way. I mean, if for some reason it happened that you cut them bigger, or if the people in the family just like to have a bigger pieces of meat, and they rather just say, I pick up a bigger piece and then I will cut them on my plate. Then just make sure all of them are in a similar size. Okay, this is one piece was a little big, and I just divide that. See this piece when I did that, and this is a much bigger piece, right? Then I just divide this in half. I'll just divide this in half. To prep the meat is that when you after you purchase from the store, you take it out of the package. Make sure you rinse them. For meat, I always rinse them, especially the ones that with the bones in it. Especially the one with the bones in it. You always want to rinse those because of the through their cutter, the bones on the edge of it, on both sides of the bones, there are a lot of those little pieces. You want to make sure you wash them off so it does not get mixed in with the pork itself. Otherwise, when you eat, you never know if there's a little piece of the crack, the bone in there. It may hurt your teeth. So always wash them. Okay. So from here, what I'm going to do is we need to blanch basically the pork. Okay. So I have a water in my pot here. I basically use water in my cooking pot and water. I'm going to now get the water to boil. Okay. So once the water is boiled, then we will put the pork in, let it cook for about a few minutes, and then we will take it out and then to rinse the meat off and then get the pot cleaned up. While this is working, I can show you how to, what are we going to do with the ginger? Okay, let me just rinse this off. So for ginger, we don't, as I said, we don't really need too much of it. We need about a few, I will use probably 5 or 6 slices of this. This is about just less than about 1 inch in diameter. Okay. And then I will use about 5 or 6 slices of this. I don't use ginger skin. I will use a little knife. I would just use a small knife and then hold it. I put my thumb here on the end. Now we'll just scrape the skin off. So ginger in Mandarin is called shenjiang. Shenjiang. The reason we use ginger is it takes away some of the, we call it, describe it as a little bit of a raw, fishy, or the bloody flavor from the pork. And ginger basically take that, remove that. It will make the it balance out that part. So here, this is slice this top off because it was exposed. It's a little dry there. So it's the ginger skin. It's fairly easy to be removed. You can use, as I said, I use a knife. Sometimes you can also use a spoon, like use a little teaspoon, on the edge of a teaspoon. You can also do the same thing and scrape it off. Okay, so from here, instead we're going to slice it first. Make sure you slice them thin enough. Okay, you don't want them too thick. Okay, so with these, here's one of the 2 ways to use this. You can just use it the way it is, sliced, add it in there. And then when the pork is ready, it's still there. And if you don't like ginger, you can just remove it. You don't have to eat it and then throw it away. I like ginger. So what I do with these is I'm going to mince this. It will be all cooked in with the sauce, everything. And then this can be consumed, but also the flavor is not extremely strong. You can hardly tell that you're actually consuming ginger because it's fine. It needs to be finely minced. Okay, so I stacked it. You can just it's sliced first, and then you cut them into fine strings. It's from the slice to fine strings, and then be careful with your hands and fingers when you chop this, because it can be, see, they become very small strings of ginger. It's actually 2 of them here. Okay, and then I will turn that around. I will turn this around to chop into little pieces. Make sure when you purchase ginger, the selection, buy the ones that's not very dry. You can still feel moist in there, because when they become too dry, it's more fiber. It's very, very hard to cut. So this now, it's on a small piece already. Then I will cut them actually a little more. I'll hold my knife, one end of my knife down, just hold it like this. That's where you stabilize it. And then the back part of your knife, you start moving it around, almost like a fan. You just keep chopping it. This way, it helps to chop the ginger into much, much finer pieces. Okay, then you can do that again by move all of them, gather all the ginger to the middle, and then do this swamp. Just do this a couple times or 3 times. It will just make it very fine ginger. If you don't like ginger, keep them in a slice and then just take it out. Either you get a slice, you don't have to eat it, right? It's much easier. But if you like ginger, do what I'm doing here, it will be all mixed in. You can't find them anymore later at the end, but flavor is all in there. So now this, I do, I cut this way instead of using food processor, is that all the texture of the ginger, it's still preserved. It's not, if you use a food processor to grind this up, you get more of the liquid from the ginger, and then fiber and liquid, it separates more. But this way, everything is preserved, and you're not really wasting anything, and then you get all the benefits of the ginger. Okay. So then after it's chopped, you just keep it in the little dish and get ready to use this. Okay. And the noodles that we're gonna make, I don't think actually, I think I didn't provide the recipe for noodles, but noodles is fairly simple. I'm not doing a complicated noodles. I'm only use a dried noodles, and then I will cook that first in the water, and I will add little veggie. And today I'm using Napa cabbage, but this is the upper part. I don't want to use the one with the too much leaf. So this is the upper part of the Napa cabbage. And I will slice this. You basically, for the ribs, you can serve it with the rice, plain white rice or brown rice if you steam them, or you can use cabbage. So I cut this halfway because we don't need the whole upper part. There's too much of it. Okay. And then I'm laying it down. I'm start slicing this. It doesn't need to be very thick, okay? If noodles are thin, unless you have a very thick noodle, so you can cut this a little thicker. Otherwise, it's no need to be thick. So, see, once you slice it, I mean, it's all those little pieces. They're not very wide. Napa cabbage is more tender and a little more juicy. So when you cook noodles, you need a little bit of a juice so the noodles is not dry. So put this. Remember, there is a core in the middle. Make sure you take the core out. Okay, make sure you take the core out. In the meantime, our water is boiling. You can see the water is boiling. Can everybody see this okay? So once my water is boiled, and I'm going to put the pork inside. Just be careful when you put the pork in so the hot water does not splatter. And then make sure you stir that, stirred, and then make sure all the meat pieces are separated, they're not stick together. So see, once you're adding the meat, the water stops boiling, right? So just let it boil, bring that back to boil again. Bring that back to boil. Now let it come out. We'll scoop this out, and then I will rinse that. This way, it's you actually lock in the moisture of from the pork, and also extract out all the unnecessary, we call it waste from it. You know, there are bloody juice in there, and then this way it all comes out, and then you don't have to really consume this. So it's coming back to boil pretty quick. I mean, with the steam, it may be a little harder to see, but it does come to boil very fairly quick. And then it's already started. You can see the bubbling. So it's the temperature is already at the boiling point. And then just let it boil for 2 or 3 minutes. So for this step, we call it 过水 or 下水焯一焯. Okay, 下水焯一焯. That way it's like a blanched kind of. You can do the same treatment whenever you cook, I mean, not only with the pork, you can do with the chicken and beef and on any other kind of meat. To me, it just gives a much cleaner taste, much cleaner taste. So when you use the pork with the ribs, you see more of the so-called I use the term waste, more of them to be floating on top of the water, because all the things that come out of the bone, it's all cleaned out. So the water won't look at this like this clear. So if you use the rib that has the bones, expecting more cloudy liquid. And that's the reason that after it's blanched, I like to wash the meat and drain again. Because some of them, even when you take this out of the water, there's still, I mean, all the things that's floating on top, I don't really want to have that in my dish. So when I drained it out, still there's some residues down there. So that's why I wash them first. So that's pretty much ready. So I will take this out. And when you take it out, as I said, all the things are floating on top. You still get some of that on the meat. Okay. So from here, I'll show you how I just use a little water. Okay. I'll do a little water, and then I'll show you how to wash it. I will just rinse all this. I rinse this, I will drain. So I will drain this into this basket here. So just let this drain for a couple minutes. Make sure get rid of all the excess water in here. Okay. So then you can just leave on the side. Get ready to use it a little later. In the meantime, I will dump out. No, let me do this. Let me do this part first. Let me get my wok cleaned up, and then we can get ready to braise our pork. Because the braising the pork takes time, so always try to get this part started, and then you have the time to do other things. Okay.
Jen, what part of the region is this recipe come from? That is,
as I said earlier, there's similar things all across China. The way I'm doing this is from the Shanghai area in the southern part of China. Okay, that's what I, so as I said, this, you can have, you find this every region, every home cooking, but they alternate just very, very minor alterations of flavor. Some is just a little heavier, some a little lighter, some a little darker. It depends on the kind of soy sauce they use. A little darker or a little lighter or more of the amber color. So now we will add in our rock sugar first. Now, I usually do a little, just add in to let it kind of like melt a little bit. And then we'll add the oil. You can add oil in first, that's okay too. This is the way, I mean, and this is the part that everyone can do this a little differently. You can add oil in first, and then add the ginger. You don't have to put sugar in at all until after you add water. I always like to do sugar a little because I want that sugar flavor to be coating the meat from the very beginning. See, the sugar start melting here. So you need to watch the heat. You don't want that to be too high and then it's really going to burn. Okay, so now I'm adding a little bit of oil. So it don't need much. I think I said that in the recipe, a tablespoon. If you're able to control the heat well, you can use less than that. Okay, and then I'm adding in the ginger. I like the ginger flavor, so I add in the ginger. Just let it cook with the sugar and the oil. Now we're adding the pork. Now we're adding the pork. So make sure you coat the pork well with the ginger, the sugar, so you get all this coated nicely. Okay. If your wok is getting like a high heat and a very hot already, and you don't have to turn the heat high, you can be low until this is all coated. And you can see the pork has a little, it's got caramelized a little bit, right? Got caramelized a little bit. Okay. So from here, I will add the soy sauce. Then add the soy sauce here. From here, now we add water. Remember the water to submerge the ribs. Make sure the water is submerged the pork. Okay. And now make sure you're in high heat because we need to make sure we bring this to boil. We need to make sure we bring this to boil. And then right now, once the water is in, we will adding our star anise. If you don't like this, you don't want to accidentally pick a piece and eat it. Okay, star anise in Mandarin is called 八角 because it has 8. Most of them has 8 corners. They call 八角. Can add this in, but if you don't like this, you don't want to say I will eat it. You can get a piece of a cheesecloth, wrap it and tie it, and then put it in, and then just take it out at the end. Okay, but I usually just add it in. So water is pretty much, say I have here, I said that so you make sure the water submerge the meat. This is pretty much the way it looked like. Okay. And once it's boiled, start boiling, then we will reduce the heat. Once it starts boiling, we will reduce the heat. as I said, I'm only cooking this, it's a little over a pound here. So it shouldn't take that long to, for that to become a boiling, to the boiling point again. Now boiling, right? You can, now we reduce this to low, to medium, low or medium low. The way to, the perfect way I like to have it is, it's still boiling, but you will see as I just turn down the heat, you will see the boiling will be in all small bubbles. Just small bubbles boiling, not going to be so big bubbles. You're not going to see big bubbles. Okay, so just to keep it this way, let it boil until it's all reduced, the liquid got all reduced. So right now, we leave this the way it is for about 10 minutes or so. Every 10 minutes or so, we will stir that one time. So to make sure all sides of meat are cooked evenly. And we can also add a lid. We can also add a lid to let braise. That's the braising part. Okay. Now, while that's cooking, we'll come back to our preparation of the noodles. So here are the Napa cabbage we cut. I'm going to put it in the bowl. I will put this in the bowl. So Napa cabbage in Mandarin we call 大白菜. 大白菜. Its literal translation is kind of funny. 大 means big. 白 means white. I mean, because the stem part is fairly white. 大白菜, 菜 it just means vegetable. Okay. Okay, so I have the Napa cabbage. The other ingredients I will use will be I'm going to shred some carrots. Okay, grab my carrots. For the carrots, you need to peel them. I just have a medium-sized carrots. Don't have to. It depends on how much if you like carrots or not. And if you do, put a little extra. If you don't, put a little less. Okay. So I usually just peel it. You rinse it first and then peel it. After you peel this, you cut both ends off. Okay. And then again, I will shred this into like a matchstick size. Okay. So carrots in Mandarin is called 胡萝卜. 胡萝卜. Okay. So we have 大白菜, the Napa cabbage, and now we have a 胡萝卜, the carrots. Okay. So I will slice it first. Okay. And then after I slice it, I line this up. That way I can cut this into the matchstick size. So we call this a 胡萝卜丝 shredded. It's a 丝. Okay. So 胡萝卜丝. Okay. So this is just now become the sticks. Okay. Just sticks. And then we'll put this have it ready to be used. Okay, sometimes if you missed a couple that's a little too thick, you can just slice that one more time. I just put this on top of my cabbage. I don't use too much vegetable in this. The only other thing I will add to this is I'm gonna add a little broccoli to it. Just give a color, the green. So I have a little broccoli, but I don't add broccoli. I don't cook them at the same time. When I stir fry vegetables, I stir fry the 白菜 and 胡萝卜丝 first, the Napa cabbage and the carrots first. Once that's softened down, then I will add in the carrots. So this is basically we're doing vegetable noodles. This is pretty much my choice of vegetables. Vegetables, again, it's optional. I mean, you don't have to use this. You can use green cabbage, okay, the head green cabbage, 包菜, 包心菜, and you can use celery, okay, 芹菜. If you like cilantro at the end, you can add a little cilantro to it by the time it's finished, right before it comes out. You can add cilantro, just chopped up some cilantro, add into the noodles. You can add scallions. You can add onions, so regular onions, 洋葱, or scallions, 青葱. So vegetable, since we're calling it vegetable noodles, it can be whatever the vegetable you like, okay? But try to cut them into, all of them like skinnier pieces, because noodles, especially if you use the Chinese style noodles, they're long and skinny, right? So try to cut your vegetables in the similar shape, okay? Now, we have one more thing to cut for our ribs. Remember, got to cut our onions. Okay. As I said, I'm going to use the bottom part of this. Okay. So this has been washed. I washed it and then I drained a little bit, so it's fairly dry. It's no excess water here. So green onions. What I'm going to do is I cut this part. Oops, here. I cut this part here first, 一半, okay, cut in half, and that way I don't have to chop it so long, and then they're all here. Now I just chop this into very fine onion rings, okay, 青葱, we call this a 葱花, because they're all loose pieces. So I use mostly the green part, right? So after this is all I need. Then we'll put this in the little plate. At the end, we will add this to the ribs. Okay. This is also more of for our garnish of the ribs. If you entertain, you're cooking this for a party, you have a guest coming in, what you can do is you can add half of this into the pork and stir with it so you can get the flavor. And then the other half, you can actually just sprinkle them on top of the rib after you plate them. So it's a nice and fresh green look against the amber color pork. That should look really, very, very refreshing. Okay, so use half of it, mix it in, and then the other half just sprinkle on top. Okay, so that's that. I think we pretty much finished cutting our things. Noodles. It's like, what kind of noodles do we use, right? There's so many different type of noodles, right? There's 很多面, there are so many different kinds, okay? So we can do thicker noodles, skinnier noodles. You can buy fresh ones, you can buy dry ones. I always keep some dry noodles with me at home. There are times I do buy fresh ones. I get that from Asian stores. I usually shop at either Lily or the Grandstone on the Grant and the Stone Avenue. So, or on Lily. So, but today I'm going to show you to be convenient in the way. If you always have some dry noodles at home, you can basically do noodles, cook a noodle dish anytime you want. Fresh noodles, after you purchase them, you sort of, there's only certain number of days you can keep them unless you put them in the freezer. And then if you put them in the freezer, say, okay, I want noodles today, but oh, no, what? It's still in the freezer. Then say, oh, I can't use it tonight because it wasn't defrosted. It was still a piece of rock. So if you have a dry one, say, okay, I just cook some noodles and then I can stir fry it, right? It's much easier. So the noodles I have today, it's actually, we call it the Hainan. It's a dry noodles. This is really not instant noodles, but you can, they actually come with a have a package in it, the seasoning package in it. But I don't use it that way. I use this for the purpose of noodles. This is a nice and skinny noodles. It doesn't take very long to cook. And I often use this so that, okay, I'm in a rush. I just need something quick to eat. I will cook a pack of noodles and do my own flavoring. I don't use the sauce pack in here, but it's the same thing. I can use this for cooking stir-fry noodles, as that is very, very thin, okay? So I will show you what this look like, but I think it's about 10 minutes. Let's go check out our pork. We need to, remember, we need to turn the pork one time. Okay. Let's see, have the angle here. So here, I have a lid on here. So if you see, it's still quite a bit of juice in here, right? So now just gently turn this. Turn this. Now it's also a time you can taste the flavor from the juice. If you like heavier flavor, or if you like lighter flavor, which means it's a more salty or less salty, so sodium level. You can taste this and see if it's to your liking. If you think, oh, this is a little too light, then this is a good time to add a little more soy sauce. If it's just a perfect, you don't have to add anything, okay? Well, to me, this is just fine. I mean, I don't eat too salty of all the food I cook. I don't put that much salt in. There are a few times if you're heavy-handed and you get a little salty, but this is just fine for me. So we stirred a little bit once, right? So now we'll put the lid back on. Okay, pull the lid back up, let further reduce. Okay, let it further reduce. Okay. So now let me show you the what is this noodle soup like. But we also need to cook our noodles. So let me get a pot to start some water, okay?
Jen,
Yes.
would you recommend to put any cornstarch before you boil the pork to make it smoother?
Not necessary, because the reason we boil the water is that I like to, it's like a cleansing step.
Yeah.
It's a cleansing step, but as long as you wash the pork afterwards, you really don't need the starch in there. There's really no need of a starch. I know some people are using it, but I have never put starch in it. The only time I use starch of cleaning is I actually do when I have to cook a shrimp. For shrimp, I use the starch to clean shrimp after I peel the shrimp and then try to devein. And then to make sure that all the vein is got cleaned out, I use starch in that, but I never use the starch in pork. Okay. So here's a pot of water. Okay, I just start this. I'm gonna use this pot to cook noodles. And I like it whenever I cook noodles, if I'm gonna use it for stir fry even, I like to add a little salt in the water. It's not like you need too much of it. You just put some salt in the water. And bring the water to boil. Then we will then cook the noodles. You don't want to cook noodles too early. I'm not going to do the two-step noodle cooking. I start cooking the noodles right before I'm ready to stir fry my vegetables. That way, when the noodles is ready, I will bring the noodles directly out of the boiling pot, put into the stir fry mix. So it's nice and warm. It's all contained. It's not, you don't have to overcook the noodles. You basically coat the vegetables and the noodles in the sauce and then just mix them together. So your noodles is not overcooked. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for me in the meantime?
Jen, somebody asked if spaghetti, most people have spaghetti noodles, dry spaghetti noodles. Would that do?
Yeah, make sure you cook the spaghetti noodles well, because spaghetti noodles is a different texture than the regular Chinese noodles. Make sure you cook that a little extra. You don't want that to be really hard, too hard. Still be al dente is good, but you don't want that to be too hard. Spaghetti, it just make sure you control the cooking time. I would suggest that you always taste the noodles after you mix it with the veggie. You you stirred everything with all coated with the flavor, but taste piece of the noodles before you serving it. You're taking out of the pot and then put on the plate to serve. Sometimes spaghetti seems like it's done, but it does not get all the flavor. It didn't soak in all the flavor. It just does not absorb as well. Any other questions? Again, noodles is another dish you find all across China. There are so many different ways of cooking noodles. Noodle soup, stir fried, or they simply cook the noodles, add the toppings, and then just mix it in the bowl. It's not like you mix stir fry noodles, so you mix it in the wok. They all separated. Toppings were cooked separately, noodles were cooked separately, and then they even have multiple toppings, and then you can just add in the flavor that you like in a big bowl, and then they use chopsticks and then just mix it, and then they eat it that way. So everyone can mix their own bowl of the noodles, and the noodles can also be cold noodles, and we use either sesame sauce or peanut sauce for cold noodles.
Jen, somebody asked, we had a tea ceremony, and they wanted to know, with this dish, which would be more appropriate tea to bring out the flavors of the food? Would it be more green tea or black tea that would bring out the flavor of the dish more when you eat it?
This I will use the green tea, because the braised pork is already on the so-called heavier, it's on the heavier flavor side. Green tea will balance better than the red tea or black tea. Noodles, you can do any tea you want, although we still use soy sauce in the noodles, but noodles is much lighter. Just a braised pork, I would do green tea instead. Okay, let me show you this noodles. Okay. This noodles is very thin. It's very thin. Okay, it's a pack. This is a 1 pack. I'm going to use a 2 pack for our stir fry. But as I said, it's the thin noodles. It doesn't take very long to cook, so you don't want to overcook this. See how thin they are? Right. So you don't want to really overcook this. And then as long as it's boiled, even from the first time, after the first boil, make sure it's all, you use chopsticks, make sure it's all loosened. And then get ready to take it out. Because longer you cook, sometimes even 1 minute longer, it changes the entire texture. You're thinking, oh, this is way too soft. Right? I mean, it does happen that way. So as I said, I'm going to use a 2-pack of this, and then with this bowl of veggie and my broccoli. Okay. And then, so you have a 1 vegetarian main course. If you don't want to do this, steam some rice. And then the sauce from the pork, okay? It's really, really good to mix rice with, okay? So we're basically waiting for our, now we're waiting for our, the ribs to finish cooking. And then I will do the noodles. So I'd like to teach you a few phrases, okay? Ribs in Mandarin is a 排骨. 排骨. Gloria probably recognize some of the words that we're doing here today. So 排骨, it's ribs. Okay. The season that we used, I said the star anise, it's called 八角. Okay, 八角 means 8 angles, 8 corners. 八角. Ginger. Ginger is a 生姜. 生姜. Ginger are used so often in Chinese cooking. And early in the year, my son and I, we got into vegetable fruit smoothie. And then we use apple, we use carrots, and another fruit. It could be tangerine, orange, and we use some lemon or lime. And then we actually add ginger to it. And then we also add some kale, and then with some apple juice. It's very, very healthy beverage. And it's a filling too, because all the, it gives your body a lot of fiber, but ginger changed that whole beverage. It's like, it's a key. With the ginger and without ginger, that drink tastes so different. But so we like actually, we actually add a chunk, a pretty good sized chunk of ginger in it, and then put it in the blender. You just all mix it together. It's really a great beverage to have. So ginger is a 生姜. So we'll find a ways not only in Chinese cooking when we mixed into the Western style beverages. And green onions. Green onions is called 青葱. 青葱. When we chopped into the small pieces, there's a different name for this now. We don't call it 青葱 anymore. We call this a 葱花. Hua is like a flower. It's like, okay, from the whole piece of a green onion, after it's chopped, it's like, oh, it's become a flower, like all the pieces, but it's not really flour, but that's the name of it. So we call this 葱花. Okay, 葱花. And remember our carrots? Carrots is 胡萝卜. 胡萝卜. Okay. Napa cabbage, it's 大白菜. 大白菜. Remember the big white vegetable? Because of the color wise, it's 大白菜. Okay. And this thing, in this stir fry, I use the stem part. I don't use the leaf part. leaf part shrinks so fast and then gets soggy very fast. And this, when it's done, it still give you a little crunchiness. Soft noodles with a little bit of crunchy vegetables. Okay. Broccoli. I bought a bag of broccoli from Costco. So they have the larger pieces and smaller pieces, right? So I chose all the small pieces because even if it's a big piece, it's too big for the to mix in with the stir fry. So I just pick out all the small pieces. They're perfect size, and then to use it for stir fry noodles. So broccoli is called 西兰花. They consider this like a flower. They call this like a flower. We also call, think in English, we also call this the forced, the broccoli floor, right? So it's considered flower. So this is a 西兰花. Okay. 西兰花. This is pretty much all the, I think this is all the ingredients that we used. Oh, the noodles. Noodles is a 面条. Noodles is a 面条. This is dry noodles. We call it 干面. Dry is 干. Okay, 干面. Okay. And then this, we will have to boil it first. 要把面先煮面. You have to boil the noodles first. Okay. Any other questions that you have? So the things, both the things we cook today, there's no, we're not locked into a particular region because it can't. I consider this more of a home cooking, comfort food. It can be modified in many different ways. You don't have to use the same veggie mix. And if you like a little sweet and sour flavor, and then you can add a little vinegar to the ribs, or just simply cook the way it is. Choice of noodles, it can be fresh, dry, or someone says spaghetti. But there are even dry noodles, so there are wider ones, thick ones, or thin ones. And there are ones that does not come into a patty form. You can buy a pack of noodles, the long pack. They come into little bundles or a whole big pack. So we're not really limiting to any particular region. When Susan and I was talking earlier, we thought, well, if this is we do this a week later, we probably could show you how to cook a turkey marinade with Asian seasoning. I've done that once in the past. It's nice and juicy. It turned out pretty interesting. It's like we got a true mix of East and West, because turkey is definitely West, right? Because Chinese don't have turkeys. They don't even know what turkey is in early years. And then all the seasoning, we use a 5 spice, we use star anise, we use soy, we use the Haitian sauce, and then the cooking wine, everything for marinade. And then the gravy is from that marination. So it's a true Asian flavored turkey. But I haven't made that for a few years. I think I only did it once in the past 8 years or so. Anyone have questions for me?
Well, Jen, I was going to let everybody know, I encourage everybody to email me if you have certain recipes that you would like Jen to cook. We definitely can add it on in the future to build our program if there's certain dishes you'd like to see how Jen cooks it from her perspective.
Yeah, to me, the cooking is fun to try new things, even if it's something like I never cooked it before. I actually ventured a few weeks ago to cook the beef shank and beef tendon. You know, Chinese people love that beef tendon. They consider that's a delicacy. But beef tendon is really, really hard to cook. So I have never cooked it before. So I mixed a beef shank and beef tendon a few weeks ago, And then it took over like I had about 1.5 pounds of beef shank and 1.5 pounds about beef tendon. And so 3 pounds of ingredients there. You don't use veggies at all. You still use the seasons and then the herbs. But just for that thing, 3 pounds, it took 3 hours to cook. It had to be slow braise, and the tendon itself is really, really hard. Even cutting it, it's really, really hard. But once it's done, it's really nice, like a very jelly and soft. And that can be used in different ways. I mean, you can eat it while it's warm. But because of the gelatin texture from the tendon, once it's cooled, it's very interesting. Once it's cooled, you can actually, you store them in a container, you can actually pour that out of a container. You can slice it. It become a jello. But it's not like a soft jello that we use for desserts, like a fruit jello. It's really floppy and soft. But this is still all the juice turned into jello. And then the beef shank and beef tendon, when you slice it off, you can see the meat. And you can see the tendon is it's like a crystal, very transparent look. And then all the juice that contained there and becoming jello is nice and firm. So that one was interesting. And then I had friends try those and they say, oh yeah, this is really good. I said, oh, that's good. I don't know what to expect, because I never cooked this thing before. And then they say, really, this is your first try? I said, yeah, I thought it's fun. And then it's something I like to eat, but I never cooked. So it's fun to learn new recipes, and then even say first time if it doesn't turn out, and then at least you know where to improve. So it's a fun thing to do. So yes, if you have recipes that you are interested in, I'm really happy to know what they are. Okay, now it's time to turn our pork again. Right, it's time to turn our pork a little more. The juice, see, the juice are much less now, right? Remember, it was still, last time we opened, it was still pretty much covered, right? Now it's only almost to the bottom. So just do this one more round. One more round. This should be nicely embraced. I know in the recipe I said that we do using cooking wine in there. I did not use it today. It depends on the type of a pork you get. Cooking wine is an optional item. There are people love to use cooking wine in cooking meat. It's not much of it. They just do a little splash in there. It just gives a little bit of extra flavor. Cooking wine has its own, we'll call it, has a nice fragrance to it. I don't always use it. On very few things I use cooking wine, but for braised pork, I don't always use it unless it's the one that like a regular ribs has more bones in it. I do a little cooking wine in there. Baby back ribs, I usually don't use it. And then for just meat, this kind of rib, it's basically just a pork. I don't often use that either. So, but that's, again, it's up to you. I can show you what the cooking wine look like. Let's see. Show you my cooking wine. This is a cooking wine. They call this 料酒. 料酒. Okay. 料酒. And the color is like this. It's a little like amber color too. Okay, it's like amber color. So this is a 料酒, the cooking wine. You can buy a bottle. I don't know if they come in small bottles. This bottle is about let's see, 700. This is 750 ml, and it does say alcohol 15% and by volume, and it does has a little bit of salt in this. So it has this contains the sodium. So this is a purely we really use only for cooking. Okay, only for cooking. I don't know if, as I said, I don't know if they come in small bottles or not. I never really pay attention to that. They might or they might not. I don't know. Okay, so while we're waiting for the pork should be done fairly soon. And then we still have a few minutes left where I can show you how to do the stir fry of the noodles. Okay. Let me get a plate together, ready to plate our pork. And I have everything is on. If you have a question, just please shout out or tell Susan what it is and she can shout out to me. If you entertain guests, you can do garnish. Simple garnishes are scallions, cilantro. Okay, I can show you actually one. We have a time while we wait. I can show you one scallion garnish. Okay, see, and then I need a little bowl with the water. This will be a fairly quick thing to do. You want to do a little garnish with the scallions, and then you really remember I had two pieces of scallion. I only use the green part, right? So I have the white part left. So what do you do with the white part? Is you get a little knife. What do you do is you first just make sure you hold it firm, it doesn't run, and then your finger's not in the way. You just do this, cut this all the way, slice it out. Okay, and then one more. Slice it out. Just keep turning to slice this into finer strands of onions, the white part. Okay. This is a very simple garnish to make. See, it's like a little flower. And then you dip this, you let it soak in the water for a little bit. Then it will hold the shape. It will hold the shape. So right now I have this first one in the water. Okay. And now see this one, I cut it very close to the end, right? So let me do that. Now we'll do this one a little less closer to the end. Kind of start from the like almost right in the middle part here and do the same. Okay, garnish this. It's like you created two pieces of flour. Okay, see this is not as much to the bottom. Then you will also soak this. It will open up. It will open up. Okay. So for the onion. So this first piece, like this. So this one is a little shorter. See, it's not all the way. And you can also push it down in the water. And now this one is also like this. See, this is like then just a tap it dry. You can put this when we put the ribs on the plate, and then we can add this two piece on the side of the plate. Okay, so now in the meantime, let's add our scallions to our pork. Okay. much this is all, I have not much of a liquid. This actually got pretty dry. Now I'm adding half of the onion in here. Okay, just half, just to stir it. Just to stir this. And then like a 30 seconds. You can actually, on your nose, you can actually smell the onion. You can smell the onion, okay? So now we're going to plate this. Well, we'll put this, what I'm going to do is just put this on my serving plate. The onions are in there already. And now, see, remember I have the remaining onion? You can sprinkle this, remember? You can just sprinkle this on top. Okay, sprinkle this. And then remember our onion garnish. Onion garnish, you can put like one on one end, the other on the other one. It just adds a little bit of finish to it. It's just adding a little bit of a finish to it. So this is our braised pork. Okay. If you don't like to put this at the corner, you can put them on top. Hey, where to place the garnish? It's really, I mean, I can even put this in the middle, right? It's not for eating, obviously, and it's just to make the dish like more finished. Onion is probably one of the easiest thing to use, unless you say, oh, I don't have enough onion. You know, what else can we do? Carrots, you can slice carrots and then also then shred it again to make a different look. You can do that. But this is what we have today. So let me wash my pot and then we will cook the stir fry the noodles. Okay. Okay, let me get the pot ready. Okay, I'm start the boiling the water for the pot that we're going to cook the noodles. Okay, and I said again, that's noodles is very simple. Only have 4 ingredients. If you like green onions in there, that will be 5. That will be the ingredient number 5. So I have veggies. Get the things moved over closer. Okay, let me move this again. Keep moving things around. The only thing about Chinese cooking is it does involve a lot of preparation, ingredients, chopping, then you may need a different stove to be used, different pots to be used. So what I'm having here, this one, because this particular burner is faster than some of the others. So I put the water for cooking the noodles here. And then I'm starting on this one also to get ready to stir fry the vegetables. Okay, to stir fry the vegetables. So for this, turn the heat on high. I don't know if you're able to see me here. Once the noodles start boiling, I can swap this over. Okay. So for this, I'm adding about a tablespoon of oil in the pot. So it's only a tablespoon of oil, and then make sure you coat the wok. Okay. And then I'm adding in the 2 of the vegetables. After you add this in, you just need to stir. I don't start with the extremely hot wok because I want the vegetable to be nicely softened instead of an extremely high heat. It won't even bring the flavors out, and then it already wilted. All you need is just to keep the stir even on the heat. Just make sure you stir fry this gently and it's well mixed. Okay. You can tell when the Napa cabbage starts softening. Okay. You can see it starts softening. We still have, we still have a little bit of a leaf around this, right? So it starts soften. The color is it's not so white anymore. It's also because of the color of the carrots that they got on the cabbage itself. Okay. At this point, we can add in the broccoli. So adding the broccoli again, just make sure you stir nicely. Make sure you stir this nicely. And then we'll add salt. For this amount, I will add about just a little more than a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm also adding a touch of sugar. And make sure you stir. Make sure you stir this after you have salt and sugar in here. Okay. And then a little bit of a chicken essence. A little bit of a chicken essence. I will show you which one I use. I will show you the bottle I have. And then right now I will add a touch of a soy sauce. Really only a small splash of soy sauce. And you don't need a lot. This is just mainly for give a little brown color here. Okay, so at this point, I'm turning off my heat. I'm turning off the heat because the water is boiling for cook the noodles. I'm adding the noodles in. I said this noodles, it's start boiling. You can see. Okay, it start boiling. And make sure when you add into the water, try to separate it. Okay, try to separate this. And then let it boil. Okay. And then if you can see the the veggie mix, I have the heat off, but the residual, the remaining heat on the stove is still make this cooking. It's still ready cooking the veggie, but see the juice on the bottom. We want to have the juice so it can coat the noodles. So it can coat the noodles, okay? Okay, there's noodles. See, it's nice and soft. It's after the first boil, this is the first boil already done. See the noodles? It's nice and soft already. This noodles are cooked fairly quick. So I will just let this sit for another minute or so. Then I will take this out and put in the veggie mix. Okay. So let me put this down. I'm going to swap my pots in just a minute. Swapping it in just a minute. That way I can put the noodles in the pot. So now you can move this, moving the veggie mix over, and I'm taking out the noodles. So you can put the noodles directly into the veggie mix. Because noodles is not completely ready yet. It's about 90, close to 95% cooked. Now in the veggie mix, you can just make sure you stir. Cook that last 5% basically. All you do is just to stir fry this. Okay. You just stir this. And now you can actually turn the heat off because we were on high heat. Now you turn the heat off. Right before it comes out. Remember, if you like onions, I have a little bit of green onions left. So I'm just going to put the onions in my noodles. And then I'm going to sprinkle a couple sprinkles of the white pepper powder. Not a lot, just a couple small sprinkles of it. And now mix. With the heat off, you don't need heat anymore. Now here's my other plate. Here's my other plate. Now I'll put the noodles out. This noodles is ready. I mean, there's some noodles got stuck on the pot. It's no big deal. Pretty much have a majority of the noodles out. And the veggies. Okay. Here is our veggie stir-fried noodles. You have so much veggie already in here, you really don't need much of a garnish, but if you want to make them look a little prettier color-wise, and bring out the broccoli from the bottom, and then kind of like place them on the top, and then some veggie. That way it's a little balanced. That way they're a little balanced. Okay. So this is our vegetable and noodles. So this is our meal today. We have our pork and noodles. Okay. I was going to show you my chicken essence I'm using. It's a common brand. I just use this chicken essence. You don't need much. You just need a little bit. I just add a little bit in the cooking. I love to use this in soup and then in braised food. And if it's a vegetarian dish I'm making, I like to use this. It just gives extra flavor. Okay. So this is our cooking session today. And if anyone have any questions, please ask.
Well, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm pretty hungry now. So I'm heading over again to your house, Jen, in minutes.
You're pretty close, so.
Thank you, everybody, for joining today. And hopefully we'll see everybody next month on December 12th. Jen's going to be teaching how to make good wonton soup next.
Wonton, yeah, we're going to make a wonton soup next time. Mm-hmm.
And we're going to put this on. We are working on putting all of these videos on Zoom onto our website. It's work in progress right now, but all the videos that we've had on Zoom will be going down on our website for everybody to use as a reference, so that if you forgot something, you certainly can go back to our website at www.tucsonchinese.org to take a look at it. Also, my apologies. I thought my IT guy put the recipe on the website. I understand he did not, so I will make sure first thing Monday morning that he does put the recipe on the website that you can all download. So everybody, I guess, how would you say bon appetit in Chinese?
慢用.
慢用. Okay. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
再见。